Hello, Bob Stenson. I believe that's his name. He has written me and asks, first of all, he tried to turn the tables when I mentioned that there is no evidence for the proof of God. He basically told me that, asked me if I could show any evidence to prove that there's no evidence for the proof of God. And then he tried to tell me that it takes faith to believe that there's no evidence for the proof of God. So I told him what I thought of faith and that it's a cop-out and it's just a book and all the things that I normally say. And he writes me and says, can you show any evidence that there is no evidence for the existence of God? Then I wrote him back and said, can I show you evidence that there is no evidence? Question, 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 question mark. Now, try to read this sentence back to yourself silently a few times and tell me how this makes any sense. Can you show any evidence that there is no evidence for the existence of God? Can you show any evidence that there's no evidence? No, because there's no evidence for the existence of God. And until you show me that there's evidence for the existence of God, then you yourself are showing me there's no evidence. Do you understand what I'm saying? Until you show me evidence, I have made my point that there is no evidence right there. There's no evidence that I know of for the existence of God until somebody like you shows me that I'm wrong. And to date, I see nobody coming forward and showing me any evidence that a God exists. There's no evidence that they show me at all. So until somebody like you changes that, I am going to continue in my belief that a God doesn't exist. I don't believe it. It doesn't take faith. I don't wake up every morning and chant over and over, I don't believe in Sasquatch. I don't believe in Sasquatch. I don't believe in Sasquatch. I don't need to reinforce the fact that I don't believe a Sasquatch exists. Or Bigfoot, you know, if you don't know what a Sasquatch is. Yeah, I don't need to reinforce that every day. It's not a struggle for me to not believe in Sasquatch because nobody's really shown me convincing evidence that a Sasquatch exists. And certainly there's more evidence for that than there is for God. So until you, Bob Stenson, present evidence for your claim that a God exists, I am going to continue with my thought, my feeling, my assumption that there's no such thing as God. I don't see evidence for it. You're not showing me evidence for it. You want me to prove that, you want me to show evidence that there's no, you want me to show evidence that there's no evidence. Okay, here it is. There's no evidence. Do you see evidence? Where's the evidence? You're not showing me any evidence. I have no evidence to show you. So there, you see? No evidence for the proof, or the existence, I should say, of a God. That's it. What else does he have to say? Because it says read more. Are you claiming that I and every person who knows Christ and is led by him, that we are not experiencing what we are experiencing? No, you're experiencing something. You're experiencing being led by your own self, and you are calling that self Christ. I had a personal relationship with Christ for a huge chunk of my life, and I really did think that there was, you know, a Christ. Shit, my computer just turned off. I have this new computer that's an old computer that, I'm sorry, it sucks as much as the old computer. This is the Acer. And it overheats and shuts off at random times. So I didn't get to read his whole comment, but his comment, am I claiming that his experience walking around, you know, it's a placebo? You know, you have no evidence that your experience is tied to a imaginary being or a non-imaginary being that you just don't see. There's no evidence for Jesus any more than there's evidence for God. There's no evidence that he ever lived. There's no evidence in his crucifixion or his resurrection. There's no evidence that the spiritual Jesus exists. You have wonderful feelings in your heart and you give credit to. I'm not saying I'm sorry, I had to cut this video and kind of because it was going nowhere. I'm not saying that I don't think that this person has experienced stuff. I experience stuff too. Here's an example of me experiencing stuff as a Christian. This is a story, but it's a true story of me experiencing the power of God. This was back when I was at Sambika and I was a kid, you know, and I went there every year, every summer, I would go to Sambika, and I'd get to be there for a week. And every year, I took the water ski class. And every year, by the end of the week, I was the last person who hadn't gotten up. I was the worst person at learning how to water ski. And this went on for maybe 3 summers. And so by the time the 3rd summer of me trying to learn how to water ski was drawing to a close, I was very upset that I still had not learned how to water ski. So I went to my counselor and I said, I want to go, I'm so sad, and she asked me why I was sad. And so I told her, and she says, you know, you should try to pray for it because God cares about the little things. So I did. I prayed very fervently to have God help me get up on water skis. All that night, prayed very hard. Next morning, I go down to the dock. Sorry, I keep hitting this cord, and I'm all ready to go. I'm very confident that I'm going to get up on water skis, okay? They had set up an inner tube for me. Yeah, they thought that if I sat in the inner tube and with the skis tips up, you know, in the inner tube, I'm already out of the water, so I'm kind of already, you know, I've got like a head start to get up on these water skis. They thought that I could get up with the inner tube. So I sit in the stupid inner tube, and I'm very upset about this because I kept saying, you know, I didn't mention this inner tube to God. I didn't mention anything about an inner tube to God. So you only get 3 tries. 3 tries every day for 5 days to get up. First 2 tries were a disaster. All I did was zoom along the top of the water on the inner tube while the boat pulled me, and nothing was happening. It's like my ass wasn't coming out of the inner tube. Okay? So I was not happy. I was at my third and final try. And I said, I don't want to try with the inner tube. I only have one more try left, and I want to try without the inner tube. The phone is interrupting my story. It's very annoying. Okay. So they took the inner tube away, and I got in the water, and I'm sitting there, and my tips are up, and the rope's between the tips, and my arms are straight, and I'm supposed to go like this to tell it to go. And as soon as I hear the boat engine start up, I closed my eyes, and I kind of relaxed my body and leaned back and said, okay, God, take over. And bam, I was up. I was up, I was behind the boat, you know, it was choppy, and I was like, holy shit, I'm up, and I was probably leaning way over, because that's how new people, you know, and they're doing this, you know, because they're like freaking out, and anyway, they don't know how to ski, so you're actually supposed to lean back, but I wasn't leaning back, I was like, but I was freaking out, I was like, I'm up on water skis, oh my god, there is a god in there, so I was like, this was this huge, exciting thing, and I came back, and I was like, God answered my prayer, God answered my prayer, I'm so excited, woohoo! And then that night at the forum, we would meet in the forum twice a day, in the morning and at night at this camp, and we would sing songs and give testimonies. So of course I had to go down and tell everybody, oh, about my miracle, I got up on skis and God did it. Well, actually what happened was I relaxed my body, I leaned back, and by leaning back, normally when you're new and you're all tense and either the boat will pull you forward and you go forward over the tips of your skis and face first into the water. That happens. Or the boat pulls the handle out of your hands. Those are like the two most frequent things that happen when you don't know how to ski and you're trying to get up. Okay? I relaxed my body, leaned back, and it was because of my posture and the fact that I wasn't all tense that I got up. It had absolutely nothing to do with God. But for years I gave God the credit, gave God the glory for that miraculous ascent into the air on top of the water. It was like, oh my gosh, no. There's always a reason. There's always a natural reason for everything that happens. And I'm sorry, you can say that God did it, or you can imagine that God did it, or if you get a warm, fuzzy feeling singing a song, or whatever. Everything that you think that God has done in your life, you've done yourself. You think God has guided you? No. You've guided you. You know what? I don't want to have Jesus guiding me anymore, but I'm doing pretty darn well just guiding myself. And you know what? Looking back, that little warm voice inside that talked to me, that was me talking to me. It wasn't God. It wasn't Jesus. You want to so am I saying to you that your experiences with Jesus never happened? No, I'm saying your experiences happened. You're giving the credit to the wrong thing. There's no imaginary friend. You're giving yourself, you're not giving yourself enough credit. You're giving credit to something that doesn't exist, that you are imagined, that you've imagined. And you know, if you imagine it enough, it's going to seem real after a while. You know, if enough people tell you that this thing that you're imagining is real, you're going to believe it after a while. So no, I'm sorry. I don't think that, I'm not saying, it's just because of the way you have it in your head, and that's what's wrong. I'm sorry, I'm not saying it never happened. I'm saying you've got the wrong explanation for it. The end. So anyway, I'm going to try to put this together with the first part and come up with some kind of video in response to this guy who's, I can't see his note now because my computer, it's a dark screen. But anyway, but that's it. That's my response to this guy, and I can't even say his name because I don't remember Stenson. I remember that. I think it was Bob Stenson. So anyway, if you've been watching Bob, thanks for watching. Bye. I thought of one more thing I wanted to say before okay, one more little thing. As far as the experience that you and so many other people like you that call yourselves Christians say you experience, how do you explain all those experiences that those other people experience who have other religions that bring them the same experiences that you experience? You know, they're not Christians, but they still get all those same warm, fuzzy feelings. They still get the same guidance from their God or their religion or their imaginary friend as you do from your Jesus. So explain to me that. I'm sorry, it's a placebo. And everybody has the same thing inside themselves, the same common sense that guides them if they just listen to it. And that's all it is. So anyway, okay, this time it's really the end. Thanks for watching. Bye!